What's going on, YouTube? In today's video, I'm going to go over my method for how I like to target brook trout. We're going to go over, first of all, how to find them, the kind of gear I use to catch them, and then the methods I'll go about trying to catch them. Alright, so if you're at an open body of water like this, what I'll do is I'll watch for to see if I can find any trout surfacing, because they'll come up to the surface of the water, and sometimes they'll even jump out a little, but usually they'll just you'll see them kind of just push up the water a little bit, and that's them usually going up to grab a fly or something off the surface, right? So if you just sit and watch for a little bit, I'll usually give it some casts and try to catch something, but I'll always keep watching the surface to just see if I see anything rising up, and if I do, I'll start casting in that direction. And whenever I see a fish rise like that, at least around here in Halifax, Nova Scotia, that would usually mean it's a trout. Not many other fish around here will surface like that. At least around here, for the most part, if you see a fish surface like that, it's usually a trout. Alright, so yeah, when I'm fishing an open body of water like that, I'll usually just go around the body of water, give some casts out till I hook something. If I hook a fish, I'll keep the fish in that area because they might be there with a whole group of them, right? And while I'm there fishing, I'll just watch for signs of trout. If I see anything jump, if I see anything surface, I'll reposition myself, get some casts in that direction, whatever. But for the most part, I usually find that I have a hard time catching trout in open water like that. And I think the reason for that is because we have a lot of invasive species here. Well, we have a few invasive species here in Nova Scotia, and there's a lot of them around. Smallmouth bass and chain pickerel and perch are a few examples. And honestly, I think what happens is they're scaring the trout out of the open water, and sometimes you got to find other spots to target them, right? Yeah, so let's say I was having trouble finding trout in that lake, but I knew that they're around this area. What I'd do is I'd skip the open water. I'd look on a map if I'm not sure of my, if I'm not sure of the layout of the water. I'd look on a map and find where there's a stream running out or into the lake. And I'll basically follow one of those streams. Yeah, because the brook trout, I'm sure there's some that are landlocked in certain places, but for the most part, to my understanding, they go back and forth from freshwater to saltwater, and they do kind of like a migration. Yeah, right now is the springtime, and that's when they like to come from the sea up into the lakes and the freshwater. And that's the best time to catch them if you're trying to eat them, because they're the best tasting after they've been out to the ocean. I think it's because of all the shrimp they're eating out there. It gets them tasting good. It gets them looking different. You can tell by the color in their flesh if it has extra pink pigments in it. That's from eating shrimp. So now I'm leaving that lake where we're going to pretend I didn't get any bites. I didn't actually fish there. We're just going to skip it. And now I'm going to search for some streams that should contain brook trout. And then I'll show you what we do there. Almost forgot. Better make sure to tuck in the socks, because we don't want any ticks. A lot of ticks around here. Alright, what do we got here? This is a very small stream. Stream this small. Not sure if I'd even bother following that. There might be a deeper section to the stream that could house fish, but if they can't get through this part, I don't know if they're making the journey. So yeah, personally, I'd skip this stream. So I looked on the maps, and the maps were showing me that there's a stream right at the end of this lake that goes and connects to another lake. and I'm gonna go check that out. So I'm gonna get geared up now, and there's nothing fancy about the kind of gear I use for this. All I use is a hook, split shot weight, and a worm. That's it. Alright, I'm not sure the actual size of these hooks that I use, but something about that size. The amount of weight that you put on there will depend on how much water current there is in the spot that you're fishing. So that's one good reason that it's good to use split shot, because it's so easy to remove. You don't have to retie every time, right? So yeah, I usually go with one split shot weight. If the water current is really, really fast and my worm is just getting blown right to the top of the water, then I'll put more weight on. But otherwise, usually it's just one. I like to burn off the tag end of the line sometimes if I don't have sharp enough scissors to cut it. There. So now I'm going to put a worm on the hook. Any old worm should do. Honestly, really, pretty much any kind of bug. They'll probably bite. Find any grubs or any kind of larvae or, something like that, right? This is it. This is all I use for fishing brook trout in little streams like this. That's it. And when I get to the open water spots, what I'll do is I'll fish it the same way, but I'll take a syringe and I'll actually fill it up with air, and then fill up the worm with air so the worm will float. And that is a really good presentation for any fish, really. Works really well for trout, but it also works good for bass and probably perch. Anything that feeds low to the ground, low to the bottom, but you want to raise it up off the bottom so that it can be seen over the weeds and rocks and the uneven surface, whatever. Yeah, so let's give this a go. Trying not to cast my shadow down over those ripples there, because I don't want the trout to get spooked. So now, here's what I do. I try to keep... Oh, is that a bite? Alright. So here's what I do here. I'll just take my worm, I'll send it through the rapids, and I'll try to get it to wherever they're biting down there. So let's send it right through the fastest moving part of the water, because we're going to use the water's movement to get our bait down there. It can be a little tricky. Alright, let's try this again. Sometimes you just got to get the right angle. Get a little closer to the middle here. Yeah, so now my bait's going over the ledge there, over the edge. See it going down through the rapids. Really helps to be able to see where your worm is so you can navigate. It can get a little confusing when you lose sight of it. Alright, now we're down over past the rapids, and right where the water stops moving fast is usually where they'll be hiding. Sometimes it's right behind a rock. So nothing biting yet. Oh, that's a bite. There we go. That's a fish. We got a fish on. Look at that. Woo! See, I told you it works. Oh no, this guy got hooked through the eye. Oh, I'm sorry, buddy. You're too small to keep, too. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, so I'm gonna let this guy go. Cute little trout. Little brook trout, also called a speckled trout. So yeah, that's the method for these rivers here. Just let it float down till it gets past the rocks. You can see, I'll get a closer view here. Now as you can see here, the water moves really fast, and then right behind the rock it slows right down. So I'm just going to send my worm right back in there. There we go. That's where we got the bites last time. Just let it float around in the more slow moving spot. You really want to try to keep it off the bottom so you don't get stuck. Oh, I'm getting bites. There's a fish on. Look at that. Oh. Okay. This time we got a smallmouth bass. These guys are invasive. Whew. Alright, so I got to a more open section here, and as soon as I got here I noticed there's a lot of activity right over there. Bunch of trout surfacing. So I'm going to set up and try to cast over there. There's a trout surfacing right there. There's another one. So my setup is the same for fishing these open spots here. The only difference is, well, I don't have any night crawlers left right now. I just got a dried up one and some smaller worms. But when I have the nice big night crawlers, what I'll do is I'll take a syringe and I'll fill it up with air, and then it'll float. So I'll set the weight however far from the distance I set the weight from the hook is going to be how far it can float off the bottom. So I can get the perfect presentation like that. But I don't have big enough worms to do that right now, so I'm just going to do some cast and retrieve over where I saw the fish surfacing. See if I can catch one. Now, when you're catching and releasing, always handle with wet hands. There's a nice little trout, eh? A bit bigger than the last one. I'm gonna let this guy go though. Not keeping any today. Not on this trip. Alright, so that's it for today's video. I hope you guys liked it. If you found any of it useful information, make sure you like and subscribe and leave a comment, whatever. I appreciate all the support. See you in the next video.